Hi, this is Paul DeWarian with Awesome Dynamic. With me today is Roch Tranel from the Tranel Financial Group. I wanted to do a recording of his experience at Abundance 360. He shared this with us at the Founders 55 meeting, and I thought that he had a lot of very interesting commentary on his experience there and some really interesting perspectives on how the business world is changing and about abundance in general. So I'd love to have Roch introduce himself. Roch?
Hello, everybody. Roch Tranel here. I'm the CEO and founder of the Tranel Financial Group. We're located in Libertyville, Illinois. It's a real pleasure to be with you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Roch. And I think this all started with you connecting with Peter Diamandis. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm in the Strategic Coach program. Dan Sullivan is the founder and is my strategic coach in the program. And the Strategic Coach is about mentoring and coaching entrepreneurs to the next level, and just for entrepreneurs. And through that program, through the relationship of being a friend of Dan Sullivan's in Strategic Coach, I became friends with Peter Diamandis, and part of Peter's life goals is to have this huge billion-person impact on the world and have us have a billion-person impact on the world. So I attended the Abundance 360 program. This is the third year that I've attended it, and absolutely love the program. And I'm excited to share with you some of the insights and concepts I learned at the conference. So you're going to love to hear some of this stuff. It's awesome.
Fantastic. We have some pictures of you and Peter by himself with your book that you wrote. If you tell us a little bit about that, pull the picture of Peter in your book, The Friend Economy. Tell us a little bit about this picture and your book, if you would.
Yeah, this is a great picture. So this is a book that I've written, The Friend Economy, talking about building your business based on really being authentic in who you are and just sharing that and being authentic. So I'll let people read the book and figure that out. But Peter, being a part of my Friend Economy, is just helping me promote my book. Actually, in this shot right here, we're at Strategic Coach getting ready for the Abundance program. And so Peter and I are just hamming it up during one of the breaks and just enjoying each other's company there.
All right, thank you. So tell us more about this Abundance 360 conference. We have a whole bunch of pictures, but I'd like to get your take on it first, on what it's all about. And I know you said billion-person impact, and the Founders 55 group that we're in together is shooting to do that billion-person impact across the world. But tell us more about the Abundance 360 conference and what someone can expect by going to that.
Yeah, so what Peter's mindset is behind getting 250 really leaders together that want to have a huge impact on their world, that really want to take their business to the next level. So Peter once a year has a 2.5-day conference. It's in Beverly Hills, California. And the whole idea is getting us together in a way that's it's inspiring us that we're already thinking about this huge impact to go to the next level. And having a safe environment where it's okay to talk about impacting a billion people's lives and inspiring each other. And Peter brings the latest scientists together, the latest technology together, the latest, greatest thinkers on the planet. And, you know, the world is moving pretty fast. It's moving really fast. And he wants us to be ready for the future and be able to capitalize on servicing our clients and doing great things for the world and not being afraid of the fast-moving future that's out there. And so it's a way of just building a community and surrounding yourself of really, really great thinkers and coming back and really being inspired for the next 365 days. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty, I mean, I get just excited just thinking about the experience and what we went through.
Well, I remember when you tagged me on Facebook and you had some pictures on there and you said, yeah, take a look at this, and the pictures are really cool. And I'd love to bring some of those up now so you can tell us a little bit about what your experience was in each of those different moments, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Let me just kind of share. So this was, you know, exponential. Peter talks about the world is exponential. It's not linear, and most people are linear thinkers. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that later. But just having exponential growth in your company. And so this is a little bit about the just some of one of the agendas, part of the morning agenda that I just thought I'd share with everybody. You know, what's interesting is these people are so willing to share with you. There's no secrets here. You can just see this is just a tremendous community of people, and they all want to help each other. There's no place else on the planet I know about where you can get together with people that want to have such an exponential impact on the world. This is just the meeting room here, the group. It was pretty dynamic. There's no question about it. We were all sitting on the edge of our seat listening to the different speakers that you could never get these speakers on your own and get their attention. So to get these speakers to speak to this group was phenomenal. So Peter brought a lot of the technology with him, and this is one of the technologies that he brought with, obviously, the 3D goggles. And one of the things he talks about with the VR, virtual reality goggles, it's going to really change your education system in the world today. The poorest person will get the same education as the wealthiest person, and they'll think they're in the same classroom based on the virtual reality glasses. And this is just one of the technologies that he's sharing. We all had an opportunity to try all this. The vendors came and shared the technology with us. It was great. This is the beam. These two things are robots. They're kind of robots, but it's a way for you to move these things around in your office or in different plants and actually be in a meeting and being in another country or in another state. And for the first time this year, he had people, quote, beaming in to the meeting that couldn't physically be there.
And could they control those devices to move around the room themselves?
Say that again, please, Paul.
Sure. Could they control those devices on the wheels to move around themselves, the people that were on the screens there?
Yeah. What was crazy about that, those people were sitting at home in their chair, but through their mouse, they were moving around the conference as if though they were people walking around the conference. And literally, you would walk up to the beam and have a conversation with the beam, which was really the face of the person that you were looking at, and they would finish the conversation with you and go on to the next person. And it was just so natural, which kind of felt a little unnatural to be talking to a beam or to be talking to a robot. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, I remember that concept presented in a movie called Demolition Man years ago, and it's just neat seeing it actually come alive today in 2016.
Yeah, they were buying those robots. They were buying those robots there, Paul. It was crazy. Just like it was just really interesting, and a lot of them were having great experiences with using those robots in their business.
Cool. Let's pull up the next picture here.
Yeah. So what Peter decided to do today, instead of or at this conference, instead of having a speaker just speak for 45 minutes to an hour and for us to take notes, Peter talked about the convergence of the technology and the importance of the technology. And then he asked the speaker a series of questions, and then Peter and the speaker then had some dialogue. So it was a very unique way of getting the information across from the speaker to us. And here he was interviewing 3 speakers. So they each got to speak for a little bit, answer some questions, and then Peter was asking them questions. Just a great room, a great group of people. I mean, it was awesome to be with this just really strong group of people. This is Dan Sullivan, and Dan Sullivan to the left there is the founder of Strategic Coach. Again, just part of us doing some of the things that Peter would do is he gave us a workbook, and then after we listened to the speakers, the whole idea was to think about our thinking and say, how do we go back and apply this to our business, apply this to our personal life, apply this to our personal massive transformative purpose. And I really like that a part of the workshop. Instead of going home and just saying, oh, I got a lot of information, we went home with a completed workbook. And this was just Peter with one of the speakers, just did a great job, just made you feel like they were in their living room talking and you got to tap into it. And I think this is Peter just wrapping things up. He did a great job of helping us think about how fast the world's moving, how to think about it, how to take advantage of it. Peter says, the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest opportunities. And how do we, as entrepreneurs, help the world solve these problems and become really great entrepreneurs and servicing our clients? It was just great to hear his perspective and how we wrapped up each session and each day.
Fantastic. I had a chance to review some of your notes that you had shared with me. Thank you for sending those over. The I You started with deception versus disruption, and I recall when you were talking about disruption in front of the Founders 55 group, you had some really interesting conversations with folks. I think one of the folks from Uber about how they're modeling their business not only to be disruptive but also prepare for being disrupted. And I know you'll get into that, but please tell us about deception versus disruption.
Yeah, one of the things that I think about is when I think about the world's moving really, really fast, and there's the convergence of all these technologies that come together. If you think about what our cell phone does today, it replaced the boom box, it replaces a flashlight, it replaces a watch that we used to wear. And think of all the things, the video camera, everything that we have in our cell phone today, our smartphone, replaces a lot of technologies. And if you were Kodak and you weren't prepared for this, or if you were one of the other technologies and you weren't prepared because you didn't see it, because it's deceptive, you can't see the what's happening. So one of the things that Peter and his team really helped shape our thinking about is you have to disrupt your business before somebody else disrupts it. And it's deceptive because we don't see it coming. You can't see it coming because, and so a company like Uber and some of these great technology companies that you think are just really on it, a part of their mission is to say, let's disrupt ourselves before our competition disrupts us.
That's great. Can you bring me an example or share with me an example of something that might be disruptive in your industry? You're in the financial industry, financial advising or advisor group, the Tranel Financial Group. Can you tell me what is changing that you foresee coming to change and disrupt that industry?
Yeah, so it's interesting with artificial intelligence, and you think of the Echo, which is basically a computer, a cylinder-like computer that can tell you the temperature, tell you who won the Super Bowl in the 1970s, and lots of really great information. So as artificial intelligence gets smarter and more intuitive, there are going to be a group of people that would rather talk to a computer about their financial situation than an actual human being. And our industry calls this an electronic advisor or a robot advisor. But one of the things that's really transforming our industry is that as artificial intelligence gets better, there'll be a group of people that'll come to, maybe it's a hologram, maybe it's an Echo type computer, maybe it's a software that they talk to on their laptop. But there is technology coming into the financial services world that'll replace, and maybe in some cases do a better job than human beings do.
I know some of the younger people that I know, yeah, like you said, they don't want to go into a bank anymore, and being on the forefront of being able to deliver some of those different services in that new way is definitely going to be huge for your industry. Looking at mindsets, I recall you talking about the millionaire and the billionaire mindset when you were speaking. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me more about what the difference is between those two?
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's about 1,800 billionaires on the planet today. And people at the Abundance 360 conference were from literally all over the world. And one of the things Peter talks about that I was really impressed with, that we've really all heard before, anybody that's been listening to podcasts and some of the great thought leaders knows that your mindset is really, really important. And a billionaires think about just impacting a billion lives. How do you become a billionaire? You have a billion clients. You think about impacting a billion lives. So what's interesting, what a millionaire will say, or someone that's an entrepreneur will say, whether they're a millionaire yet or not, will say, I've got this idea, but I'm not going to advance on the idea until I figure out all steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. Where a billionaire's mindset says, I'm going to skip to step 6, the completion step. It doesn't really matter who's writing the software, who's the insurance company that's going to insure the building, who's going to take care of all the steps. They'll know that they're going to surround themselves with a really good team of people. The billionaires jump to the mindset that it's done, it's complete, will fill in those gaps. The millionaire typically says, I can't start the project until all those roles and projects are defined. So if I were to be speaking to your group and just say, how do you think a little bit bigger? Just leap forward. Don't worry about how those gaps get filled in. Just know that those gaps will eventually get filled in by really good people. You know, a really great idea is just a really crazy idea the day before until it catches on.
And how do we do that with a 2-pizza team?
So there's your current company and there's your future company. So there's the company that you have, it's your cash flow company, and you're working really hard at that, and you've worked on that, and you say, I want to take this leap to have this billion-person impact, to solve a big problem, because I see that as an opportunity. And you say to yourself, how I got to put a team together that's going to help me get there. And there's this rule that says you don't want your team to be any larger than 2 pizzas will feed. And the thought process is if your team's too big, you're going to have it's going to turn into a bureaucracy. And so you want to keep a small, very nimble team, and that team will help solve that big problem that you're trying to solve. So it's called the 2-pizza team. You don't want any team bigger than 2 pizzas will feed.
I just think that insight is just really, really unique, and I love it.
Yeah, I do too. You and I, Paul, have been on boards of directors, or I'm sorry, on charitable boards or different boards where they're so large and people just have to talk about things and research things. And you're like, months go by, months and months and months of meetings, and nothing gets solved. All we're doing is researching stuff. And I think the concept behind a 2-pizza group is that it's small, it's nimble, you can make decisions, you're committed, you own it, and you can move forward.
That's just fantastic, and I think more people should adopt that ideology to approach things in that way, just to get something done.
Yes.
So I was looking at the notes here. We have the idea surrounding yourself with people that are more of what you expect in your future rather than what you had in your past. Can you tell us a little bit about that concept?
Yeah, so the mindset is there when I was growing up, or the thoughts that I had is that the friendships and the relationships that I had were just circumstantial. I had friends in high school, I had friends in college, I had some work friends because I happened to have a job there. But the thought today is you need to be very, very intentional about the people you surround yourself. And Peter talks about building a community, a very intentional community, a group of people that support your thinking, support your crazy ideas, that think that having a billion-person impact is not abnormal, but that's really normal. And they want to support you. They want to send you a podcast of something that would help your thinking that way. So the whole idea is think about people that support your future, intentionally hang around those people, so those people then can support you that aren't in the group that thinking, Roch, that's a really crazy idea. Well, it probably is a crazy idea, but you want it to become the next big thing, and it's probably a crazy idea before it was considered the next big thing. So be intentional about who you're surrounding yourself with and people that are supporting your future.
All right. And then we have, I want to go back to the concept of mindsets because you had something here about the mindset of a startup and not being afraid of failure. And obviously being surrounded by some of these folks that are part of where you want to go is going to be supportive in that aspect. But tell me a little bit more about, that idea of not being afraid of failure and how that plays into, being a startup, the proper mindset of a startup company or entrepreneur.
Yeah, Peter Diamandis was interviewing Jeff Holden, who is I think he's the chief product development officer at Uber. And so he interviewed Jeff and talked about Amazon, talked about his time at Groupon, and then he was starting to transition his time where he started at Uber. And Peter, with the childlike smile and exuberance, said, Jeff, tell us about the most spectacular failure you've ever had at Uber. And Jeff laughed and he said, I got about 20 or maybe I got 50 really spectacular failures. And so the mindset that I think that we need to have is that failing is okay. and it's a part of business. And I think there's a sense with some people that if you failed, they internalize that and it's how you're judged and it determines who you are. And there's certain, especially out west in the technology arena, you are expected to fail so many times before you're even considered successful. So it's interesting that as soon as Peter was interviewing Jeff and it got to Uber, he didn't say, tell us about the most successful technology contribution you had to Uber. He said, tell me about the most spectacular failure you had. And we need to, all of us as entrepreneurs and small companies, talk about our failures as long as we're learning from them. Talk about our failures because it tells us we're experimenting. And small companies are supposed to be nimble. They're supposed to be able to try things, and some things don't work, and we hire this person and they don't work out. And so we're like, oh, we hired him. They didn't. No, we're experimenting. And I think we need to adopt the position that failure is normal. Failure is okay. Failure is fun. That's the way young entrepreneurial companies get excited about making progress.
And if you're afraid to fail, I know so many people just get paralyzed and then they just don't do anything at all. And that's where I've talked with so many folks about their product ideas or what they want to put up on a website or just so many different things, and they just feel paralyzed, like they can't do anything until they do all these other things. Do you have any experience with that you could share with us?
Yeah, I've known team members that I've had, carpenters that I've had, people that just can't move forward unless they have a guaranteed outcome. That's just the way they're hardwired, and they are going to sit there and think and ponder about what should be done and laying out all the steps. And even if somebody lays out all the steps, if that guarantee of outcome isn't there, they just can't move forward. And then there's certain people that just get a kick out of jumping into something that they know nothing about, and that gives them energy, and they love to just figure it out as they go. So I'm encouraging entrepreneurs just to experiment and have failure, have conversation about failure all the time with people. Hey, I failed here. Oh, what did you learn from it? I think we need, as entrepreneurs, make that a natural part of our conversation.
You know, what's neat is that that's something that we brought to this Founders 55 group, and part of our monthly meetings is to have conversations about not only the great successes that we have, but also some of the failures and challenges that we have and how we can overcome those. Speaking of Founders 55, I will move right into the idea that this group, Founders 55, is meant to make a billion-person impact on the world. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you decided to start this group and the growth of it over the last year or so?
Yeah, we're really excited. So it actually was born in my mind at the Abundance 360 conference several years ago. And thinking to myself, I didn't want to just come back from the conference, collect a bunch of notes, put it on the binder, or put the binder on the shelf, and then go back to the conference a year later. I wanted to actually do this. So I spent some time rewriting my notes and rewriting what I thought was going to happen, what I wanted to have happen. And this billion person impact, it just kept like, why does it have to be somebody else? Why can't it be myself and a great team of people that are like-minded in my community? So I decided I was going to put this community together of 55 people. 55 people signed the Declaration of Independence. Jay Cash and I created Founders 55 with the idea of getting together abundant leaders wanting to have an abundant impact. Abundant leaders with an abundant impact. And our goal was to crowdsource a really big problem. And then once the crowd came back to us with a problem that we felt that we wanted to solve, we were then going to crowdsource a solution to that problem. And so that's how Founders 55 came about. And actually, Paul, what I'm most excited about, yes, is Founders 55, but we have learned how to crowdsource in a way that we are using it in our business. And I'm hoping that the people in Founders 55 crowdsource solutions for their work, for their church, for their community, for all aspects of their life, and take everything that we're doing at Founders 55 and just exponentially blow it up in every area that they're connected to.
So tell me more about this 25-year commitment
Yeah.
and how this billion person impact relates to this 25-year commitment piece that you had put in your notes.
One of the things I heard Dan Sullivan talk about is a 25-year commitment he had to strategic coach. And I just thought about that. I thought about how I admired somebody who was in their 70s having a 25-year commitment to a project. And I thought about if you want to get people excited that you're just not trying this, that you're really all in, that you've burned the ship, you're on the island and you're making this excursion work, is to make a 25-year commitment to it. So I came back with that idea and have used that in our business at the Tranel Financial Group, in our Liberty One investment management portfolios, and in Founders 55. So Founders 55 is a 25-year commitment to having a billion-person impact. And what's interesting about that, each quarter, every 3 months, is only 1% of 25 years. And when you look at it like that, it takes a lot of pressure off. You don't have to solve everything in 1 year or in 2 years or 5 years. Every quarter represents 1%. And if you're making some good progress and you know you're going to stick to this for 25 years, wow, just let's have some fun. Let's have a huge impact. Let's build our community. And we know some great things will happen.
Roch, I have a couple quotes here that you had written about the mindset of adoption. Do you want me to read those to you, or do you know those off the top of your head?
No, why don't you share it with me, and then I'll just comment on those.
Sure, sure. So I'm not going to be looking at the camera here. That which is measured improves. That which is measured and reported improves exponentially, by Carl Pearson. And the other is, your eyes only see, your ears only hear what your brain is looking for.
Yeah, I love those two, Paul, because so the very first one talks about what's reported grows. No, let's pause that. Let's just do the very first one first. I have both in my mind, and I want to, Paul, say them as two separate thoughts. So let's read it again, and I'll start to do it again.
Yeah, I'll just cut that piece out. We'll just cut that piece out. That's no problem. So you had some notes here about the mindset of adoption and some quotes that were very inspirational to you, and I want to read a couple of those. I'll start with the first one. That which is measured improves. That which is measured and reported improves exponentially, by Carl Pearson. You want to comment on that?
My whole thought behind the reason that resonated with me is that what we want to do as entrepreneurs, what I encourage our clients to do, what I encourage people I'm around to do, is have an open book company, especially young people. But most people don't want to come and work with a company, dedicate their life, dedicate their career to a company, and not really know what's going on behind the scenes. And I think if you want to have a very successful company, you have to have open book. So by reporting the growth that you're having in your not-for-profit, in your business, in your church life, whatever it happens to be, by reporting it, that's what makes it grows exponentially. Because people want to see success, and when you report a number, they want to 10x it, or they want 100x it, or they just want to know the score of the game. If you think about how, especially guys, I'm stereotyping here, watch sports, we always are looking at the screen. We want to know how many timeouts are left. We want to know what down it is. We want to know the score all the time, but we don't do that. We don't provide that in our businesses. So I encourage people to have open book management so the entire team knows what score it is all the time. And people always want to achieve more if they know the score, if they know where the goal line is.
It's an excellent excellent idea there, and it's something that I've been starting to push in my business, is really getting into the financials and reporting it and sharing it with my employees regularly. And I found that it's not only motivating me to achieve the next goal, it's really helping me define it and refine how we approach that goal. We also have this mindset of adoption quote which says, your eyes only see, your ears only hear what your brain is looking for. Tell us about that.
I love that quote, because that quote says, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about falling or are you thinking about charging ahead? Because if you're thinking about the roadblock, if you're thinking about what won't happen or what can't happen, that's what your brain's going to look for. But if your brain is looking for success and the opportunity and you're looking through a different lens, that's what your eyes and that's what your ears are going to hear. So I encourage people to be very conscious about what they're thinking about. You need to think about anything's possible, what can happen, not what are some of the roadblocks that'll prevent you from getting to where you want to be.
Thank you, Roch. Taking a look at some of the other notes here, we have a section on as we see the change coming and think about disruption of your company. You don't have to love to be, I think it says expert. Is that what you had put down here?
Yeah, I think that as you look at your current company and you're solving problems and you say, I think there's another company within my current company and I want to go explore that. There are some people that say, well, I don't know how to solve it. You don't need to know how to solve it. All you need to do is say, I understand the problem. I understand how people are being disrupted, and then connect with that thought. So you're in your current company, you recognize there's a problem that you've been exposed to. And what I encourage people to do is don't get caught up that you don't know how to solve the problem. You are going to crowdsource the problem. I tell people the smartest people don't necessarily work at your company. The smartest people potentially work at another company and they're willing to do some work on the side, or they're willing to lend their expertise to your company, creating a software, creating a marketing piece to help you solve that problem to get to this new company that you want to create. It's a two-pizza team, remember, Paul.
That's right. You have some great quotes here about confidence. I'd like to start with this first one here. Confidence comes from knowing you will have a long life and a very healthy life. You don't have to do everything right now. You have the abundance of time because of advances in healthcare, 25-year mindset. Tell us a little bit about that. That was probably some of your notes combined with that quote, but tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking about when I talk about your confidence becomes strong when you say, I don't have to accomplish everything I want to accomplish by the time I'm 65. If you say to yourself, with advances in healthcare, advances in technology, that I don't have until 65, but I have until 85. Peter brought some healthcare and some scientists in talking about when you're 100 in the future, it's going to feel like you're 65. And if you were to say, okay, now I don't have this short time frame, I have this longer time frame to solve some of these world's greatest problems and have an opportunity for myself to capitalize on that, it takes a lot of the pressure off. Your confidence goes up. So by understanding that the technology in healthcare will help you live longer, and if you take care of your body, your confidence says, my window to accomplish those goals and to achieve significance isn't tight, but in essence, it's actually, I have a long time to solve these problems, and I understand I don't have to physically do it myself. I'm going to bring really smart people from other companies in to solve those problems.
You also have another quote on the confidence. Protect yourself from being overwhelmed. Confidence comes from not being surprised. And we don't have to boil the ocean.
Yeah, I think most people, well, it goes back to the conversation we just had, Paul. Most people feel like they've got to solve all these problems and build this team in a short period of time. And when I think about you don't have to boil the ocean, you're just boiling a pot of water. You're solving one problem today. You don't have to worry about, metaphorically, having to boil the entire ocean. And if you said, well, all I have to do is boil this pot of water, like, that's not too hard. That builds my confidence. I can boil this pot of water. But if you said, wow, I got to heat up the entire ocean or boil the ocean, just metaphorically, it becomes an overwhelming task. Your confidence goes up knowing that you have a long period of time, and just by accomplishing 1% every quarter, by the end of 25 years, you can have the impact and the significance you want to have.
You have an interesting note here, and I recall you talking about this in front of the Founders 55 group, wrapping your head around the idea of success and wealth and how that's done at the service of others rather than at the expense of them. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think in culture today, there is an idea that if you're wealthy, it's evil. And I think there's that thought because they think that if you've accumulated wealth, you've done it at the expense of somebody. But I will share with you, I think that if you've accumulated your wealth, and I believe most entrepreneurs have accumulated their wealth, not at the expense of other people, but servicing other people, providing other people with value. And when you provide someone with value, with the expectation that you're going to even create more value, you deserve to get paid. You deserve to increase your fortune in some way. So I would just encourage people to think about how they think about money, and is it in a positive way or is it in a negative way, or the people they're surrounded by think about money in a positive way or a negative way. And you want to purposely build your community around people that say, I really appreciate the value that you bring to the world and how you service your customers or your clientele, whatever you happen to do that. And if you serve people well, you deserve to be paid well, and you deserve to be able to have the opportunity in a very healthy way to create wealth for yourself.
It's just, it really speaks to me that yeah, a lot of people think that those with a lot of money are doing it for the wrong reasons, and that's not always the case. You said something else that had inspired me to make some changes in my business that I saw you had written down here as a quote. The world's biggest problems are the world's biggest opportunities. And I remember you sharing a story about the sign guy, the guy that makes signs, driving
Yeah.
around looking for bulbs that were out. I'd love you to share that story in a little bit more depth and talk about that concept as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So when I say the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest opportunities, sometimes people have a disconnect like you're taking advantage of the problems. No, you're not. You didn't create the problem. You're trying to create solutions for a problem that already existed. It could be an oil spill in the ocean that you had nothing to do with, but yet you want to help clean up, or it could be anything small. So what I encourage people to do is to look through the lens of where are the problems that their business can solve. And I have a friend of mine that's in the sign business. And what he does is he drives around at night looking for light bulbs that are burned out. He didn't burn the light bulbs out, but he's looking for them. And then he can help those businesses look really professional. Nobody wants to use a business where their sign's got half the light bulbs burned out or you can't read the full words. So in essence, my friend is doing a fantastic service to the business that has the light bulb burned out that may not even know the light bulb's burned out because they leave at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I would just encourage people to look through the lens of where is there a problem that I can create the solution to that and then get paid to create that solution for that problem.
I want to share with you, Roch, how that has influenced my business. I've been able to identify a certain set of businesses in a particular industry that has websites that are roughly 20 years old across the board, 90% of them. And it's that problem, that light that's out, and we have the solution to help them. And that's really been a focus of our new target audience for what we do in my business. So thank you for that insight.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Let's see here. Mindset, and I love this little piece that you wrote. It's a choice and it's free. And you've been talking about mindset, the billionaire mindset, the millionaire mindset, and all these different aspects of looking through the lens of confidence and everything else that we've talked about. Tell me, folks, I could see say, well, I don't know how to change, or I don't know how to change my mindset. Talk a little bit about how that choice and being free allows you to be able to do those things.
Isn't it interesting that I'm hanging around at the Abundance Conference with millionaires and billionaires, and we're talking about mindset. And you would probably think they've already checked that box off. Why would you go to a conference with very successful entrepreneurs, and why would Peter Diamandis be talking about mindset? Because it's so important. It's just so important. And even millionaires and billionaires, and not that makes them any better than anybody else, but they're just at a level of achievement, impacting and providing value to the world, that even these folks have to check their mindset, have to keep focused on the mindset, have to be focused on the future. Even the future is moving fast for those folks. And they have to say, what am I thinking about? And how is it impacting the people that I'm around? So when I put mindset, you'd be like, oh, people that then haven't achieved anything or on their ladder up need to think about mindset. But I put that there because everybody needs to think about their mindset about their faith, their mindset about their marriage, their mindset about money, their mindset about their business and how they're adapting to change. Just you've got to think about what are you thinking about and how that impacts things. And what's really cool, if your thinking is not where you think it should be, you got to hang around the right people that will encourage you. You got to listen to the right podcasts, read the right books, listen to, and more importantly, you got to turn some stuff off. You've got to turn off the news sometimes when it's too much. And so what you're listening to is really, really important. So you have a choice. Do you watch the news and it drag you down? Or do you watch another program or a podcast that lifts you up? It's your choice that's going to get you into a state of mind that's going to help you advance your cause and your mission in life.
So speaking of that mission in life, you had here to find something that you would die for and live for it. And you also had having the feeling of having a compelling future and being able to decide about that. Tell me a little bit about those concepts.
Yeah, one of the speakers shared that with me. Find something you would die for. And then he paused and he said, and live for it. And isn't that interesting? Because find something, in the friend economy, I talk about find something that you would put a stake in the hill on and then die on that hill. And then go, I don't use those same words, but and go live for it. Tell everybody what you're willing to die for. Don't be one way at church, one way at work, one way at the community neighborhood picnic that you're in. Be one way. And I think what the speaker was telling us is figure out what you would die for and go tell everybody. Build your business, build your life, build your family around that. And people will feel it, and they'll either be attracted to it or they'll be repelled by it. They just won't, but that's not for me. But the people that will be attracted by it will want to work for you. They'll want to volunteer for you. They want to spread their message for you. I just love that sentiment. Is more people, instead of just going through life, said, hey, I'm willing to die for this. It could be pets. It could be Alzheimer's because something happened. It could be whatever it is in your family, but then make a decision. That's what I'm going to live for. And I want everybody around me to know that. And if they want to support me and be a part of my community, great. If not, we can just be friends.
People that are resilient have enormous passion. That is something that I think I'd like to wrap up this segment with, is your reaction to that particular quote.
You wonder how you wonder how people that start a business and then fail, or some of the employees leave and take the intellectual capital or with them, and they start up again, and you just wonder how you hear their story. I mean, you hear them when they're at top and you're like, wow, it went from here to here. And then you hear the story and it went like crazy on this roller coaster ride up and down. And you say, how does a person persevere through all those ups and downs of life and in their business and economic trends that are happening? And how does that perseverance happen? It's their passion. It's because they're willing to die for something. And you can feel somebody that's willing to die for something. You can feel somebody that's client obsessed. At the Tranel Financial Group, we talk about being client obsessed. And I tell new team members that come aboard, you don't have to tell anybody that you're client obsessed. If you're passionate about them winning at whatever they want to win at, retirement or putting their kids through school, they'll be able to feel it. They'll absolutely be able to feel it. And that passion is what helps you persevere through the difficult times.
Roch, you're a very passionate guy. I've known you for at least 2 or 3 years now, and your passion comes through everything that you do and say. I'd like you to tell me a little bit more about how you've grown the Tranel Financial Group from you being an individual, running your own money concepts, financial advisor portfolio, through where you are today. And tell me, just, it doesn't have to be a long story, just, where you came from, just a couple challenges you overcame, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started out as a very passionate financial planner, and I built a team of people around me to support me, a support team, an IT team, all the typical teams you would need around you to have a successful business. But I was the primary advisor, and at some point, I recognized I wanted to have a larger impact on the world, and I said, how can I do that? And I wanted to coach and mentor other great advisors that felt good about my values, felt good about my process and system. So starting off in October of 1988 to today, I've now built a business around a group of advisors, a great team that share my passion for being client obsessed. And that's where we're at today, growing our company. You know, what's interesting is when I first started, I wasn't as outwardly passionate as I am today. I worried about, would people be repelled, but I was too over the top, too passionate. And at some point, you just get comfortable with who you are and what you're all about and what you would die for. And you've known me, Paul, in the part of my life where I'm just outwardly passionate and sharing my passion with people. And I've realized that I've probably impacted less lives by not being as passionate or by holding some of that passion back. And today, that spirit is just catchy. There's people that have come back to me and said, oh, I heard you speak or heard you talk, or this really hit me in the way that you said it. So I would encourage everybody to not hold back and just be really super passionate about what you're willing to die for and let that out. For me, it's financial planning and impacting people in a very positive way with their money.
You know, Roch, you've also mentioned the book Being Bold. I don't know if that's what is the exact book name, and this really ties into exactly what you're talking about. You know, being passionate and showing that passion to others. I know exactly where you're coming from because I felt like I withheld it quite a bit in years past, and I'm definitely more bold about that. So tell me about your experience with that particular book, and tell us a little bit about that in general.
Yeah, so Peter Diamandis wrote two books. His first book was Abundance, and his second book was Bold. The Abundance is the future is brighter than you think it is, and Bold is just about being bold in your business and everything that you do. So if you're not a Peter Diamandis fan, I would encourage you to read his books, and it will. I've had people read his books and say, those two books have changed my life. That's the best advice you gave me, Roch, because it helps you think about the world in a way that no one else is talking about. So Peter and I are good friends, and I just encourage you to be impacted like I've been impacted. And one of the ways you can do that is reading his book, Bold and Abundance.
Yeah, we got the book Bold up on the screen there. Let's pull up the book Abundance. Yeah, I know the Abundance 360 conference was everything that you explained it to us. Does the book further those different concepts in any specific way that you'd like to tell us about?
No, actually, the book sets the tone for a way of thinking, and the Abundance 360 conference brings the speakers to us, brings the latest technology to us, and then Peter Diamandis helps us think about our thinking in that light. So I think the conference builds on the book because the book shapes the thinking, and then bringing the latest scientists and technology to us is what the conference is all about.
Roch, you told us a lot of times through some of the Freedom One networking and the Founders 55, the idea of 10 timesing where you're at right now. Can you tell me more about how that's so important to exponentially grow your impact, just in general, whether it's your business, impacting the world, a billion-person impact, you talk about that. Tell me about this 10 times concept.
It blew my mind because I thought when I first heard about 10 timings, I'm going to start over.
Sure.
I thought when I first heard about 10 timing, a 10x growth of the Tranel Financial Group, that it would be 10 times harder. But actually, it's more challenging to do a double than it is to do a 10 times growth. And let me explain to you why. When you have a car and you're getting 35 miles to the gallon and you want to get a 10% increase, you take a look at the car and the wind tunnel and weight and metallurgy and everything about the car, and you make a small increase and you put a lot of effort into that. But when you say, I want this car to get 100 miles on a gallon of gas. Okay? 100 miles or 500 miles on a gallon of gas, a 10x type goal, a big goal. You don't even look at the current car that you have. You say, we've got to assemble a 2-pizza team, and we've got to take a look at how do we put a new car together that can get 200, 300, 400 miles to 1 gallon of gas. And then somebody in the back of the room raises her hand and says, well, who says the energy has to come from the car? Could the energy possibly come from the road? And now they're thinking about roads and cars in a much different way than if you just said, let's make the car lighter or the engine more fuel efficient or more, go through the wind tunnel less resistant. It's a different way of thinking about the world. So when you 10x your company, you 10x what you're trying to do at your church and 10x a not-for-profit or charity that you're passionate about, you've got to think about it totally different. And 10xing is easier because you bring your 2-pizza team together and you move forward in a much different fashion than you would thinking about it from the old way.
All right. And when you were at the Abundance 360 conference, you learned about a lot of new technologies coming up, and you shared some of those with us at the Founders 55 meeting. I'm a technology guy. I just love learning about this stuff. I don't have time to look at every aspect of technology. I'm focused on the websites and the getting found on Google stuff. Tell me about some of the new cool things that are coming up that you learned about at the Abundance 360 conference.
Yeah, drones was the big thing, and I'll have to give you full disclosure. I'm not an IT guy, so I'm going to share with you secondhand what some of these scientists and IT people were telling us what's happening, and I don't know how it all works. But one of the big things they're talking about is the drones and how drones are really going to impact the world. One of the things I thought that they talked about is right now, if you dial 911, a dispatcher takes it, an ambulance is dispatched, and 2 people come there, and if you're having a heart attack, they know that statistically the faster they get to you and the faster they start administering treatment, the higher the probability you'll survive. Well, now what they're talking about is you call 911, a drone will come to you. You'll open up if you call the 911, you'll open up the drone. It'll tell you exactly what to administer based on what it is sensing from the body that's collapsed and having the heart attack. And they will be able to administer much, much quicker. And they want to make sure that there's a drone within, I forget what it is, like a minute or 30 seconds of every person on the planet. So if you have a heart attack, your chance of survival will go way up. That just blows my mind, that how they're going to use drones. Obviously, in delivery, we've all heard Amazon talk about using drones to deliver. But what's really important, what they talk about in some of these third world countries that don't have the roadways and the infrastructure that we have, the only way that Amazon will be able to deliver products is through drones. Talk about automated cars. As you know, Tesla is trying to create automated cars. Uber is going down the path of having their cars be automated and driverless, which just blows me away. Talking about robotics. In a robotic hand that can feel sensor and pressure, that just crazy blows me away. Sensitive touch. It was interesting. They talked about robots, and some of these robots are so lifelike that it freaks people out. And they talk about if a robot is so lifelike that they can't tell the difference between a human being and a robot, people don't like it. So they actually want robots that are a little bit clunky or a little bit robot-esque, so it doesn't freak people out. Talk about 3D printing and 3D printing cars and 3D printing engines and 3D printing houses. In some foreign countries, they're actually 3D printing houses, and they're talking about bringing this technology to the U.S. to 3D print a upscale, luxurious house. I am so excited about the technology. Now, mind you, I have no idea how any of this works. And when these scientists are talking, I'm taking it for their word. But if you are ever just worried about if the planet's getting better, the planet and people and technology, all of this stuff is going to be used for good, for human longevity, for making our lives better. I am really excited about the future.
Well, that just sounds really exciting, all these different things that these scientists are putting together and being able to hear from them firsthand at this conference. just is absolutely amazing. You said there was a lot of notable speakers there. Is there any that you can share with us that were there that you'd like to mention?
Well, yeah, Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil. He has predicted science and technology and healthcare, and his prediction rate, his success rate in what he predicts is in the 80% range. And he was predicting human longevity, and he was predicting when cancer will be cured. And he says it's when price, performance, and capacity converge. That's how he predicts when something will be viable. And he talks about nanobots. He talks about computers the size of red blood cells that you'll inject into your body, and they'll be able to go attack any cancer that's there. He feels that that technology in 2033, which is really 15 or so years down the road, will be available. They'll inject those nanobots into your body. They'll know exactly what cancer to or what problem in your body. They'll clean out your heart, whatever it happens to be. And just think about in 15 short years, we should really have, he predicts that we'll be able to wipe out any cancer, any heart disease that we have. It's just phenomenal where this technology has taken us. He really impressed me a lot.
Yeah, that's just amazing how the technology is really going to really make a huge impact on the older folks in our community and extend their lives and get rid of some of these horrible diseases that we know about but struggle with. Roch, this has been a fabulous interview. I really appreciate your time and you sharing all this great information with us from your conference and your perspectives on all these different ideas. I'd like people to know how to get in contact with you if they'd like to meet you or learn more about any of these different things. Can you tell us the best way for folks to get in contact with you?
I'd love it if somebody contacted our office through just using the old-fashioned telephone, which is 847-680-9050, 847-680-9050. Susan is our receptionist. She does a fantastic job, and she'll get you connected to myself. That's how friends talk to each other. Friends pick up the phone and they talk to each other. But if that's not convenient, just email me at rtranel, RTRANEL, at moneyconcepts.com. I look forward to connecting with everybody and sharing my insights on abundance.
Great. Thank you, Roch. And again, this is Paul DeWarian with Awesome Dynamic. Really appreciate those of you that were able to watch this video in its entirety. Roch just is such a great resource for lots of different abundant thinking, and he's really made a huge impact on my business and how I've pushed my business to where it is today. If you need to get in contact with me, you can certainly visit awesomedynamic.com or call 800-238-1811. Thank you so much, and we look forward to talking with you sometime in the future.